What you believe about yourself will ultimately dictate the outcome of your life. What do you believe about yourself? Most people are waiting. They're waiting for the one deal. They're waiting for the one hire. They're waiting for the one idea. They're the one moment that changes everything. They're waiting on the silver bullet. They're biding their time. That mindset is exactly what's keeping you stuck. Because the truth is there is no silver bullet. Very few times in human history has there been just this exceptional moment or this exceptional person that walks in and changes everything.
Nobody you know has become successful outside of it being given to them from their family. Nobody you know has actually created success without working their face off. It doesn't exist. So you can sit and talk about luck, and you can sit and talk about this, that, or the other thing, but I promise you, the only controllable thing you have is your work ethic.
It's just decisions over and over and over again. And most of those decisions are small, inconsequential decisions. Some of them are wrong, a few of them are right, but stacked together, decisions become unstoppable.
Entrepreneurship is just one of those jobs that really violently, deeply depends on getting it right. You have to know what reality really will entail. And in so many other kinds of business,
making money happens when you're actually doing things that make people's life better.
Anything that where you want something better, there's a cost you have to pay for it. And the cost for earning higher returns is putting up with and enduring a never-ending chain of volatility and unknowns. Putting up with that unknown and accepting that is why that's the cost of admission that we have to pay in order to get something greater than we could get in a bank account. It's just increasing the odds. It's increasing the level of volatility in life that you can endure. That is the best that you can do financially.
It's not about a big change. It's not about a big swing. It's not about the grand slam. It's about doing the right thing every single day. That's how businesses are actually built.
the world will put you in situations where all of a sudden you have to choose. And it's in those choices that we discover what our values really are.
Being the best at what you do in the world in which you live is enormously valuable. That if you're going to go buy a bagel or call a locksmith or anything in between, who are you going to call? You're going to call the best one. Being third is worth very little. How do you become the best one? You don't quit when everyone else does.
Entrepreneurship is just one of those jobs that really violently, deeply depends on getting it right. You have to know what reality really will entail. And in so many other kinds of business, you can kind of get away with stuff. You can mistreat people. You can, hide it in politics. There's so many ways to make money, to have success in business without actually creating any value. But if you really want to create value, then you have to be intimately connected with the truth about who your customers are, what customers want, what the economic environment that they inhabit is. And you have to be able to figure out how to build an organization that can put your principles into practice, whatever those principles are, whether you care about quality or design or health or you name it. You have to be of service to real people to create real value. So I'm really proud of the fact, I feel like Lean Startup has, from its inception, really stood for those principles, iterative development, scientific thinking, and humanistic values.
What questions are you asking that are different from what everyone else in the industry is asking? Because the questions you ask are the problem you solve.
I would encourage anyone who's not necessarily feeling confident about asking questions and being inquisitive in their classroom or their workplace, start with just one or two questions. Start with one or two people that you think will be receptive to a question. And then that's kind of how you're gonna build your confidence. And you're gonna realize more often than not, people have interesting things to say when you ask them questions.
Find something that you're willing to die for and then live for it.
Biggest thing I'm asking people to do is to find someone else and talk about it. Don't hide your strategy. Strategies are different than tactics. Tactics, they can be a surprise. They can be an advantage if they're a secret. Strategies, we know what Nike's strategy is. We know Netflix's strategy. We know Starbucks' strategy. It's not a secret, right? And can you tell me what yours is?
Before you start any project, anything, ask yourself 3 questions. Why this? Why now? Why me? Why this is essentially says that, God forbid, I am actually successful in solving the problem that I set out to solve. Would it help 1 billion people live a better life? If you can build any product, any service that helps 1 billion people live a better life, you can create a $100 billion company.
Plans are about you exercising your agency and authority. We make a plan and then we work to make it true. Strategy isn't that. Strategy acknowledges that there are other people, that there are other systems, that what we're thinking of doing might not work. And it's hard to talk about that, to say, I'm going to go build these assets and go on this project, and it might not work, but this is my strategy. So instead, we default to following the crowd, whatever the crowd is doing.
Ask yourself what had changed in the last 2 or 3 years. More importantly, what do you expect to be changing in the next 3 to 5 years that will allow you to solve this problem at scale in 3 to 5 years? And this problem could not have been solved 5 years ago. And the reason to do so is to always think about, are you using yesterday's technology to solve tomorrow's problem, or are you actually intercepting tomorrow's technology to solve tomorrow's problem? So you always want to make sure that, are you actually riding the wave of exponential technology you are in fact, or you're being crushed by the tsunami that's coming?
How do I know when to keep going versus when to pivot, when to change course?
My answer is, first, has anyone else ever made it through this dip? Has anyone else made it through the darkness and gotten out to the other side? So organic chemistry is a bear. No one likes organic chemistry. You have to get through it to get into medical school. It's a dip. They built it, not because you need organic chemistry to be a doctor, but because they need a lot of people to drop out. So if you know that, when it gets hard, you can say, good news, this is hard. Now I know why it's here. If I can just make it through this on the other side, things will be better. Okay, that's different than saying, I'm going to be the first person who becomes a billionaire making YouTube videos, right? It looks like, Mr. Beast has finally figured out how to get almost there, but 1 out of 500,000 are bad odds. So if that's not a path, that doesn't mean you shouldn't try, but it means you should go in with your eyes open saying, there's a big chunk of lottery ticket here, that this isn't a well-worn path where I get through a dip and then I'm going to be fine. This is a really difficult path that's probably not going to get me to where I want to go. If you're on social media and you are listening to the crowd, it's either going to make you feel bad or it's not. If it makes you feel bad, it's because you're taking yourself seriously. If it doesn't make you feel bad, you're building too thick a skin, and that's not going to help either. So the way that I think about this is, I take the work very seriously, but I'm working hard to not take any given individual's response to the work too seriously, because all that means is they didn't get the joke.
Making money happens when you're actually doing things that make people's life better. In this framework, you never want to focus on how. You focus on what is it that needs to be done and not how you're going to do that. And the reason many entrepreneurs fail is because they start to think about how they're going to do that. And most experts who start a company, they say, I don't know how to do it, so that means I'm not going to do it because it can't be done. Whereas someone comes along from outside the industry, they say, I understand what problem needs to be done. I'm going to find the right people to help me solve that problem. I may not know how to do it, but it's a problem worth solving. Break down a big problem into smaller chunks of problem, and then you start to see what problem is already solved, what problem is incremental, and what is a problem that yet to be solved. And if you can solve that, then you know everything else will fall in place. The world will put you in situations where all of a sudden you have to choose.
You can't have both. In your fantasy, when you're thinking the fantasy plan of your startup, of your business, of your career, of whatever, you get to have it all. Your product is infinitely cheap and everybody loves it. There's no customer segmentation. Every customer loves it equally. It has no externalities. The press writes nice things about you. You win the Nobel Prize. Like, all the good things happen to you. But in real life, that's not how it works. In real life, you have to choose. Do you want to serve this customer or that customer? Do you want it to be high quality and expensive, or low quality and inexpensive? Do you want to have it be this business model or that? Do you want to write something that, build something that the press loves but customers hate, or vice versa? We often have to choose. And it's in those choices that we discover what our values really are. So even if someone says, like, I think your product sucks, what they're really telling you is about what they want in their product. It's really not what you made for them. If they tell you you're a bad person, that doesn't necessarily reflect a moral failure on your part. It just reflects their perspective. Like, that's what they feel and think.
Don't look at the life as success or failure. Redefine what success is. Your self-worth doesn't come from how much you own. Your self-worth comes from how much you create. So if you own a lot and you haven't created anything, you're still a parasite on society. So don't be a parasite.
The more you are snubbed while poor, the more you enjoy displaying being rich. A lot of it is a wound that was inflicted upon you, and you're like, I'm gonna get back. There's no definition of wealth. The only definition that makes sense to people is relative to other people. And so it doesn't matter how much money that I have. All that matters is that I have more than you. It is 100 times more potent now because of social media. Your comparison group now that you're comparing yourself to is a curated, algorithmic, highlighted reel of the top 1% of moments of the top 1% of people's lives. Your dad was the only man in the world who wants you to exceed him. Only man in the world who wants you to do better than him. The highest ROI that you can get out of your money is independence. Like anything that where you want something better, there's a cost you have to pay for it. And the cost for earning higher returns in the stock market is putting up with and enduring a never-ending chain of volatility and unknowns. Putting up with that unknown and accepting that is why that's the cost of admission that we have to pay in order to get something greater than we could get in a bank account. The situation that you want to avoid at all costs is the stock market fell and therefore I need to sell my house, cancel my vacation, sell my cars, tell my kids that we can't pay for their college. That's what you want to avoid. The most important risks in your life are things that you cannot envision. It's things that you and I aren't even talking today. If you lived on a deserted island with your family and nobody could see how you were living, nobody could see your house, nobody could see your cars, your clothes, your jewelry, completely walled off from the eyes of the world, how would you choose to live? What kind of house would you want to live in? What kind of car would you drive? People are so naturally wired to compete with other people and try to inject themselves on the social hierarchy that it's kind of a daily battle with that. I mean, it's similar with food and whatnot. Some people eat really good diets, but don't pretend that you don't crave M&Ms. You do. They're delicious, right? And so even if you eat a good diet, it's probably a daily battle to pull yourself away from the temptations. As soon as my goal becomes, I want to use money to impress millions of other people outside of my life, I think that's a fruitless endeavor. And I think that's where the immediate if your goals are less about independence and more about how can I display to the rest of the world that I've achieved some level of status and I think they're going to admire me for that status, which is a faulty assumption most of the time. That's where I think people can go astray. Don't spend money on things, spend money on experiences. I think a lot of things are awesome and a lot of experiences can leave you pretty empty. Particularly in the social media world, I think of a lot of people, I would venture to say most people, pick their next vacation based off of what's going to make the best picture on social media.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I've talked about this before. You know what my personal example of this is? This is very subjective. People can disagree with this. Bali. I think Bali is
super overrated. Not your bag.
Completely overrated.
Okay.
We went there. It's not bad, but I've been to so many other tropical places that were 10 times better. The emotion that people want is contentment. So when you daydream about what life will be like when you're in the beautiful house or when you're retired, whatever that might be, and it feels great. You're like, oh, that life would be amazing. What you're actually doing in that moment is you're imagining yourself in that dream house and being content with it. That's what feels good, is you imagine yourself sitting on the balcony and saying, or thinking to yourself, I don't need anything else. This is as good as it gets. That's what feels good. The more common reality is that if you get to that dream house someday, you get out on the balcony and you're like, the ceiling's leaking. The neighbor's house is bigger. The sun's in my eye. And you're just not content in that moment. And so I think that what people are actually striving to pursue is contentment. It's just getting to an area where you're like, I'm good. I've got everything I need right now.
Here's your question. Are you waiting on the silver bullet in any area of your life? What you believe about yourself will ultimately dictate the outcome of your life. What do you believe about yourself? Most people are waiting. They're waiting for the one deal. They're waiting for the one hire. They're waiting for the one idea. They're the one moment that changes everything. They're waiting on the silver bullet. They're biding their time. They're literally working in business with this expectation that something is going to happen. This special person's going to walk through the door and everything's going to change. This one customer is going to come in and love what they do and make a purchase. They're going to get known, or they're going to get exposure, or whatever it is. That mindset is exactly what's keeping you stuck. Because the truth is there is no silver bullet. Very few times in human history has there been just this exceptional moment or this exceptional person that walks in and changes everything. It's just decisions over and over and over again. And most of those decisions are small, inconsequential decisions. Some of them are wrong, a few of them are right, but stacked together, decisions become unstoppable. The greatest batters in history in baseball are not the ones who stepped up in a moment's notice and hit the grand slam. They're the ones that literally just day after day after day after day, they were in the grind of perfecting the swing. And when it came time to actually swing, they had already done it 10,000 times. It was just muscle memory. Because momentum is just that. Momentum doesn't come from perfection. It comes from doing similar things and perfecting them over time. It's not about a big change. It's not about a big swing. It's not about the grand slam. It's about doing the right thing every single day. It comes from volume. Winning comes from volume. This is where most people lose. They fire one shot with the expectation of all success riding on that shot. And if it doesn't work, they stop. And when people stop, it's typically a telltale sign of a lack of character, a lack of discipline, and the lack of perseverance. It shows a weakness. If you can only do something, muster up enough to do something one time, and if it doesn't go well, you bail out, it just shows weakness. That's a weakness that's in a lot of humans. The ones who win are the ones who fire 10,000 times. The ones that try over and over and over and over again. So there's an internal shift I want you to consider. But the internal shift that has to happen is not just a strategy shift, it's an identity shift. Because when you stop looking for the silver bullet, you stop becoming fragile. You have to realize that I don't need this one thing to work because I'm going to keep going until something does. That's power, and ultimately that's freedom. Freedom takes away this mindset or this idea that if this doesn't work, then we're all doomed. That's how businesses are actually built. It's not one moment, but it's thousands of small, often invisible decisions. Decisions that you don't even think about, that the average person wouldn't even recognize, and it's thousands of them. The fact of the matter is success comes to those who are dedicated, who are willing to get under the weight over time, they're willing to persevere, and in the end, that is the game. That is what you have to do to be successful. It's what's missing in so many people's lives. It's what separates the winners from the losers. Go back to the ideas that you've had. Go back to those things where you decided to bail out. And I guarantee some of those ideas were great ideas. And if you just would have stuck with it, it would have won. You need to stop believing that everything has to go right. Perfectionism is oftentimes the enemy of success. Everything doesn't have to go right. It just needs progress. Stop looking for the one singular thing that gives you success and realize it's going to take 10,000 iterations. Stop being fragile. So here's the close. Are you still waiting on the silver bullet? Are you willing to forego the silver bullet and pick up the lead bullets? Because the people in this world who win, they don't wait for the perfect shot. They just keep firing. I actually think what's holding you back is between the ears. I think it's what you believe about yourself. What you believe about yourself will ultimately dictate the outcome of your life. What do you believe about yourself? That's where you should start, because what you believe about yourself will be the limiter in everything. No breakthrough is actually coming to save you. There isn't one thing that's going to come to your rescue. Only progress. And progress over time creates habits that create success. You don't need the right hire. You don't need the right deal. You don't need the right strategy. What you need is more bullets. You need more conversations. You need more attempts. You need more iterations. You need more swings. Malcolm Gladwell says that in order to be an expert in anything, you got to put 10,000 hours in. And no one saw the 10,000 hours. Very few people saw when I was sitting at a desk late at night in my 20s, thinking and dreaming and working and pushing when everybody else had gone away. Nobody saw the, I came into corporate America very young, and my boss said, in order for you to be taken seriously because you're so young, you need to wear a suit and tie every day. Well, all my counterparts, they might have wore dress clothes at the business I was in, but they never dressed to that level. I could not afford the suits that I literally had to go get a job at a suit store to get a discount on the suits. I then bought the suits at the suit store and then went and worked my second job in order to be taken seriously in my early 20s. And I was competing with 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, because that was who was successful at that work. But very few people saw that. Very few people saw me working at a mall, at a suit store, until 10 o'clock at night, just so that I could afford the very thing that I was told could be successful. And by the way, none of it matters, right? Like, all of us have to go through it. That shouldn't be a moment where I'm like, pat me on the back because I did these things. And honestly, you should be waiting on the pat on the back either. The fact of the matter is success comes to the diligent. Success comes to those who are dedicated, who are willing to get under the weight over time. They're willing to persevere. And in the end, that is the game. That is what you have to do to be successful.
So what should we do, Gary Vee? Let's wrap this up.
Yeah,
what should we do? What should people do?
To me, hustle is maximizing the energy you're putting into somebody. I'm blown away by people saying that they're hustling and they want to achieve these great things and then their actions don't match. Nobody you know has become successful outside of it being given to them from their family. Nobody you know has actually created success without working their face off. It doesn't exist. So you can sit and talk about luck, and you can sit and talk about this, that, or the other thing, but I promise you, the only controllable thing you have is your work ethic. Hustle would be putting all your effort into achieving the goal at hand, and for me that means making every minute count. In the business world, so many people think that scoring is based on how big your net worth is or how much money you make, and it's really unfortunate because I think true bred entrepreneurship almost doesn't give about all the collateral that comes along with it. It's art. You just love doing it. Building a business is hard, and you know what makes it really hard? Everything that happens every day of every moment. So, you can pick time, you can pick money as the one or two things that you think stop you from winning your game, but the truth is, there's a million reasons. 99% of businesses go out of business for a reason, and that reason is, it's hard. If you're a leader by nature, your job is to stop pressure at your level, not deploy more of it underneath you. And that we have to start recognizing that soft skills will continue to dominate and gain momentum because hard skills are starting to be commoditized. So I implore all of you to please reverse engineer and figure out who you are. In the business world, so many people think that scoring is based on how big your net worth is or how much money you make. And it's really unfortunate because I think true bred entrepreneurship almost doesn't give about all the collateral that comes along with it. It's art. You just love doing it. And we've got to find our balance. Much like the chat I had up front, as I spend the next half decade refining what I talked to you about up there, and what I'm talking about right now is we have to change the definition of success. We have to. It cannot be the flex. We cannot put expensive watches and cars and bank accounts on a pedestal. We must get away from that. But that doesn't mean we demonize it either. We have to make it about the process of the game. We've got to find our way, because right now we're over here. We've got to find this. I think that people in business are confused. I think that the way that business is branded is misbranded. I think people think that if you're kind, you get walked over. And I think that is absolutely asinine. I think that a lot of people who claim they're being walked all over are actually just trying to manipulate situations, and it didn't work out the way they wanted to, so they use I got walked all over as an excuse. I'm kind as none of you are walking over me. I watch people give advice completely predicated on natural talent and DNA, and I'm like, look, like I get it, like I can throw a football every day for 9 hours a day. I'm just not physically built to be competitive at the highest levels. So yeah, I do think, if anybody watching right now, if there's anything they take away, it's like, look, like you're gonna only be so pretty, you're only gonna be so smart, there's things that are gonna be natural, and then there's things that you can actually control. I do believe, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I don't, but I do believe that work ethic is a taught behavior. It's something you do have more control over. So much of what I've always felt as an entrepreneur was a vulnerability of a school system is not the cliche stuff that you might see in my content, but just by nature, all of us spending the majority of our youth in a system that grades us every 90 days, and we pander to a subjective reality within that, really sets us up to eliminate our creativity and our curiosity, makes us subconsciously conform to the short term, and inherently makes us lack patience. The other thing I'm spending a lot of time on is how much we struggle with our relationship in time and with time. We get sold so many things like life is short, which, I think all of us at this point know, depending on the context that you look at a statement or a situation, it changes the altercation. But so many of the rules in society of when you're supposed to have your life figured out, get married, accomplish, is predicated on a world where people live to 45 years old. It's just the reality of it. So much of what we're affected by is how our grandparents were affected by their parents and grandparents, and those were dying at 40. Of course you should have your life figured out at 30 when you're dead at 47. But we haven't adjusted. 1880 may seem a long time ago, but it's stunningly not. And when life expectancy is in the late 30s and early 40s, and now we're 75, 85, 90, 95, I just think that there's so much confusion in the system. And I just think that we need to have different conversations. Let me give you an example. A different conversation that we need in the business world, that's where I'll keep it, but it's clearly a societal statement, is I'm genuinely struggling why anybody should not be kind. I've watched in the business world for the last 20 years, people justify being cruel to the people that they're a manager of or their admins because they're stressed. I'm sorry I scolded you, you don't get it, the client had me in a bad day. We have completely accepted bad behavior off of, I'm really passionate about this. If you're a leader by nature, your job is to stop pressure at your level, not deploy more of it underneath you. I think that we need to just do better. And I think that I'm passionate at this point in my life to really start talking about the nuances that are very clear to me, that sustainable things are grounded in very good virtues, and that we have to start recognizing that soft skills will continue to dominate and gain momentum because hard skills are starting to be commoditized. The most insecure place I've ever been in was the fear of confrontation, which blows people's mind because on stage and public persona, candor is my strength. But in real life, I hated candor because my father was very aggressive with candor, but very negative. And I wasn't able to separate the vehicle he was deploying the candor in from the value of candor. So for 25 years of my career, I was anxious every time I decided somebody had to get fired. It completely put me into spirals. I would avoid it. It was always sloppy. To a T, every person that's ever been close to me in business that works for me or worked for me that doesn't love me is based on one thing, my inability to be candorous. And it's been a very big shift for me in the last 3-4 years. The new book is called 12 and a half. It's about 13 attributes. But I call it 12 and a half because I'm only halfway through my journey on kind candor. And I needed to create the word kind in front of candor to even begin to deploy candor. And it has led to an incredible amount of unhappiness in my life and career was my inability to be candorous, which is wild because my content is incredibly candorous because I'm not talking to anybody. I'm talking to everybody. But when it's Steve or Sally or Johnny or Nicole or Karen, it was very hard for me. And so now I do it. The average income in the US is $54,000, $55,000. The top 1% of earners in America make $450,000 a year and above. If you make $450,000 a year in America, you are very, very, very wealthy. We don't even begin to think somebody's got anything going on if they don't make $1 million a year. And $1 million a year in all the craziness now feels like nothing, right? So I think we have the conversation super wrong. And then there's a whole nother convo. Do you know how many miserable f***s I know that make $4 million a year and hate their life and everything sucks? And do you know how many people that make $130 or 65 that I know that love life? Like, we have a complete convo of what success looks like. We need to have important conversations around self-esteem and FOMO and all this other. If your happiness is predicated on if people think you're awesome or this, that, you're gonna be in trouble. You're vulnerable to outside affirmation, which is the quickest way to get into fun. Luck is part of the equation. Now, do I think I'm lucky? I do not think I'm lucky because the confidence, which is great parenting, by the way, maybe a little luck in that, one could debate, and definitely just kind of the overall skills and the hustle, which is DNA. I don't know if you can be taught to work your face off. So I think it's just a mixture. And I think that that is something that people need to recognize, feel comfortable with, bet on your strengths, and execute.